My journey through literacy has never really been very complicated. I was never a writing prodigy, nor was I ever the fastest reader in my grade. That being said, I have never been terrible at writing, or incredibly slow when reading. I read at what I imagine to be a fairly normal pace, with some typical tendencies of reading slowly when I want to catch the details, and slower when I don't. I write with what I understand to be an acceptable amount of literary training and at a decent speed, though I still need to look at every key that I type on the keyboard. With all that in mind, I invite you to watch through my literary background, where I began and where I will hopefully arrive in due time. If I've done my job well, this will not be complicated to watch, and there will be enough detail to give a relative understanding of myself and where I stand in terms of literacy. As I mentioned before, I have not had a very complicated journey, so I believe this to be fitting for my personal account of literary history. To make this account accurate, I'll start at the beginning. I opened my eyes to find a bright light. This light was coming from the television screen on static, because I couldn't figure out how to get the VCR to work. This upset me, so I swore at the VCR instead, naturally causing my mother to look up from the kitchen table and see the TV on static. What did you just say, son? She helped me start up the VCR, which didn't turn out to be very complicated, before giving me a brief talking to about the sort of vocabulary I just used.
Now, son, we can't use words like that. At least not in that setting. Bad words are sad words, especially for someone your age. You can't just go around throwing crazy words like that, okay? I don't want to hear it. I don't want to see it happen again. Just because you hear it, whenever mommy says it, or whenever daddy says it, does not mean you have the right to say it. Right, Joe? What? Yeah. You understand?
This was my first use of such advanced language, and unfortunately Mom was not impressed. This is probably because I was 3 years old. Back to the faulty VCR, Mom had bought these tapes that played the alphabet and numbers on a train cartoon type thing, and it was these tapes that actually taught me how to read. When I was a little bit older, my dad actually told me how he knew the tapes worked, and basically, long story short, my grandmother just thought I was talking to myself in a parking garage one day, but I was really just reading the license plates. She was relieved because she thought I was going a little bit crazy. Back at home, Mom would always read Goodnight Moon to me before bed, and this was actually the first book I ever read on my own. Although, the first time around, I really didn't care about actually reading the book. I was much more focused on the mice that were hidden on every page, except for one. There was always one that did not have a mouse.
Where's the mouse? Mom, there's not a mouse on this page.
This has always been very difficult for me. Moving right along to grade school, I took reading level tests very seriously.
Guys, are you ready for that reading test?
These tests were designed to test whether or not you were on par with the average reading level, and every year, my teacher told me I was above average.
Okay, class, here is the reading assignment. I'll be handing these out to you momentarily. The Gray Fox and the Nightingale. Once upon a time, there was a small gray fox. This gray fox was a sort of black sheep in school, often made fun of by his classmates that would not call him names and make fun of him for being as brightly colored as the other foxes. The gray fox just went on and
I read those tests with such precision that I could never tell you anything about what I actually read.
Liam, what did you just read? Something about a fox?
I led my life thinking that I read faster than everybody else.
God, Liam, are you done yet? Just about.
Until I realized in my senior year that everybody finished before I did. To add to my woe, the texts we were reading weren't even that complicated. I just couldn't keep up. I could read faster. I just couldn't retain any of it. This was when I realized that I was never actually above the ordinary level. I was just reading fast to read fast. I am comforted by the thought that whenever I actually take my time to read something, I do understand it. I can't just fly by. This presented itself once again in a much more pleasant way. The first time around that I read the Harry Potter series, I hated the Order of the Phoenix, because I just blew through it.
God, this is so much better than the Order of the Phoenix.
The Order of the Phoenix is obviously the longest book in the series. As a middle schooler, I did not have time for such trivial matters of character development and little action. Since I've reread Order of the Phoenix, it's actually become one of my favorites. I'm currently on Deathly Hallows, and I'm a proud member of Gryffindor House.
Go Lions!
I'm a Hufflepuff.
Fun fact, this semester has been so jam-packed with work, school, and other stuff that I still have yet to open Book 7 except to film this project. Sad face.
All around me are familiar faces, worn out places, worn out faces.
Currently, I'm on track for a psychology degree, which on its own is not that complicated. I plan to go to grad school and pursue a PhD in clinical psychology, and maybe even get my license for counseling therapy as well. This endeavor will probably require a few essays and definitely entail some complicated reading. I hope to be able to increase my vocabulary in a less vulgar manner than the last time I mentioned vocabulary, and maybe even gain some reading speed and comprehension. My literary background, as I previously stated and have now described, is not necessarily anything extraordinary. However, it is noteworthy enough to be able to film a film on. As I have illustrated in my account, I have no right to claim my journey through literature has been complicated. In fact, it's been rather simple. A journey of a mere cub who's grown to be a slightly larger cub who one day hopes to be a lion. A Gryffindor lion with a bit less magical ability.
Accio! Accio!
Or just a different magic. The kind of magic that isn't performed with wands, but with words. Hopefully one day, I can be the one who can be there for the people who really need it, and truly make a difference. Because there's always somebody who needs another person, without a wand, or with a wand, either way. Hopefully, the more I read, write, and learn, the closer to that person, and to lionhood, I'll actually be. And as long as I get enough sleep.